Okay, we're going to close our eyes and pray in tonight. Let's take a deep breath. And again, and again. And so tonight we lift ourselves up above the earthly view of things unfolding in the world. And we seek the comfort of the soul's perspective, the soul's wisdom, especially as we explore the deeper meaning of the number 9 and the energy of the year 2025 that we're moving into in 2 months. And tonight we will seek the higher awareness of learning to understand that things are never as they seem on earth, and opening our hearts to embrace anything that we may be resisting or struggling with in the earth realm. And so it is. So tonight I want to start by talking about the year 2025 and the energy of the 9. And I don't want to take question and answer yet. I want to start by saying we've talked a lot about the energy of the numbers before. And because of this being the first meeting we've had since the 2024 election, it really feels to me important to review right now what the energy of the 9 is all about, because in January we officially start a 9 universal year, 2025. And if you go back through time and calculate all the 9 universal years, it's pretty clear that they are often indicating a big shift in the world's direction and consciousness. And so I wanted to look at, we talk often about 9 having the meanings of culmination, achievement from the 9-year cycle, but also surrender. But there's a third part to the number 9 that I talk about with my 9 path clients, but I don't think I've really talked about in terms of the year 2025. And that is humanitarianism. The 9 represents, and if we look at it through single lifetimes as someone's birth path number, the 9 represents final lifetime in the earth realm, having to take a bigger view, a bigger understanding of life, not just centered on my needs, my wants as a human being. The 9 ultimately calls us to be humanitarian, to take into account the bigger picture, the need and the highest good of all, and bring to that a surrender of how our individual human selves, or we can say our egos, want things to go. Now, when you look at your own personal life and your 9-year cycles, whenever we hit 9-year cycles, there is always some component of saying, oh, that's not how I wanted this to go. And usually there is some pain and grief involved in that. But as we move out of that 9, we begin to see that the new cycle that arrives brings us to a greater level of our own evolution, of our consciousness, of our happiness, of our heart's wisdom. It's um, a necessary ending of how we've wanted things to go, and an important opening to the greater good. And when I say that, I say that to people on every side of the political, spectrum, because right now half of the people in the country are celebrating and half of the people are grieving. And so what I offer up tonight is the understanding that None of us get our way. In a 9 year, there is a great surrender that doesn't just mean that the person who wins what they think is right doesn't have to surrender and everybody else does. No, it's an accumulative all-in surrender to how we want things to go. And when I feel into that, especially because 2025 has a 22 in it, as you probably noticed if you've looked at the numbers, and also it ends with a 5. What that says to me personally is that we are still going to have to shift our consciousness to a higher frequency, no matter what that means to any of us. And that is going to be a powerful shift. It's just not going to be another year on the planet. And the other piece is it ends in the number 5. 5 calls for radical change, a radical expansion of who we are and our ideas and how we look at our physical lives on Earth. So when you put that 22 there and the 5 at the end, and then you look at the 9 universal year, I really feel that 2025 is a game changer for all of us. And I don't think anybody comes out of 2025 feeling the same as they do tonight, a year before it, I mean, a few months before it begins. So, what that really means is we all have to enter this phase dropping our, I'm not going to say dropping our emotions because we have to feel our emotions. The people who are grieving the election, and I'll include myself in that to be authentic, we have to feel that grief. I mean, I've said this to my grieving clients for decades. You can't just walk through that grief and not feel it. You have to feel it to heal it. So we need to take our time now to feel that grief, to feel that rage, and then move it out of us, hopefully with spiritual practices, meditation, etc. And also heart to heart, authentic conversations with people in our lives who both agree with us and disagree with us, trying to get back to our heart connections. But then, as we move through those emotions and we enter January, we will already be feeling before January begins, because the way the numbers change is they change in a wave. It's not just one night, everything changes. It changes in a wave of energy. So by January, we are all going to be feeling a little bit of shell shock at how things are going, because even in the personal months of 2025, which I've mapped out, um, there's a reset happening in the beginning of 2025, numerologically. So, what that means to us in the physical world could be a lot of different things, from a big upheaval in the political world to um, an intervention from some other source to some understanding that there's a foreign power involved in all of this. Doesn't matter what it means. It just means that things change in January and February. I feel from looking at the numbers that things aren't even clear about our country and our election until March. Then we begin to grapple with what that means and how we move through it. So, anybody who's brokenhearted, just keep your heart open and surrender what you want to happen and trust that higher awareness that's in all of us, that the light always wins. We know that. We know in our heart that hatred, greed, and discrimination don't win in the long run. That's what we've banked our entire understanding of this divine order universe on. Now, the people who are happy, they have their own reasons, and it's not our job to condemn or judge, because everyone has their own viewpoint and understanding of what's happening. But they will also have to let go of some of their understanding of how things should go. We're all having to come together in 2025 and see it in a different way and step up to our individual collective humanitarian selves. So don't be disappointed and don't be gloating, whatever is going on with anyone. Trust that there is more to come in this year. And also remember that above all else, nine, the energy of the nine is a finality. So everything that's happened in the last 9 year cycle, and that cycle began in 2017, it comes to an ending in 2025. So, no, things are not just going to carry on as they have been. So, let's be open. Let's try to forgive each other. Let's try to know that there's a different viewpoint. And I've also listened to some other spiritual teachers saying that this is a time of split realities and that people are seeing the world so completely polarized from each other that our reality is actually splitting. And when I hear that, I think, well, I mean, what does that mean? I love a lot of people who voted the opposite of me, and I don't want my reality to be completely different from theirs. I want my reality to be in harmony with theirs. But if it is a split reality, then we have to be more vigilant than ever that we are holding on to our love, that we are holding on to our goodness, that we are holding on to our hope, and not falling into our anger and our blame and our judgment. Because if a split reality is happening, I want to be on the side of the light. I want to be on the side of the compassion, the love, the humanitarianism. So, really, that needs to be our daily recipe for shifting our energy to a higher source, is to say, please, angels, please, divine guides, lift me up to my own higher self possibility of consciousness now. Purge me of my anger and my grief enough that I can love on everyone from a higher perspective. So, on that note, I'll just be quiet right now. And if there are questions, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Sue. Hi, Marcia.
Hi,
Um,
Lydia.
hi. Um, I do have a question, but I also just want to comment on what you just said. A split reality to me, feels like civil war. I mean, especially when half the country or 48%, voted for Kamala and just over 50%. It's like, is that where we're headed? You
Well, I
know?
think it's better if we don't project that it's going to be a war. But
Right,
but I've been saying for over a year that, there will be conflict in all of this. It's not going to be an easy slide. And,
right.
I think also we have to also be aware of the images that we're carrying in our heads and our hearts right now about the world. Because if there is conflict, nobody wins, nobody
Right.
wins when there's actual violence in the world or people getting hurt. And none of us who stand for the light want that to happen. And,
Absolutely.
so I think that those of us who really do believe that there can be a higher resolution of this, our hard work right now is forgiveness,
Yeah.
and compassion and kindness. And trust me, we're all struggling with that. I hear from clients about it every day. I've had it in my own personal life with people I love dearly who are on such opposing viewpoints in this. And so we really have to imagine that we're back in the divine realms and all of this is over and we're sitting around that beautiful meeting place of souls and we're reviewing it and we're saying, well, I'm so glad that I didn't linger in that meanness and anger and hatred that was going on then, even though my mind told me that all those other people were wrong. I'm so glad I kept fighting to open my heart and find forgiveness. That's how we want to be able to look at this. And trust me, it's not just those of us who voted for Kamala who are hurting right now. There's a lot of people who have great pain, or our world would not be in the situation that it's in right now. This is a time of, well, we've called it accelerated consciousness, but that's kind of a nice way of saying crazy, frenetic, speeded up energy that's knocking everyone for a loop and making people afraid. And when you look at why people would vote a certain way, of course, there's a lot of fear in the world, or that vote wouldn't have gone the way that it did. So
Right.
we have to fight that. And the only way to fight fear, as we know, Marianne Williamson taught it decades ago, is love. Love is the opposite of fear. And as I say that, I'm not there. I'm struggling every day. But as long as we're trying to get to that higher frequency of love, compassion, forgiveness, we're doing our job right now.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I was out of the country on election day, and I was actually thinking this week because I had time and space to think because I wasn't here sitting in that energy. And you always talk about, we talk about, um, you know, the people that come into our lives, for our highest good, are some of the most painful relationships, some of the most loving relationships. And I thought to myself, what if the more enlightened souls are the ones who voted for him? And we're the ones that are stuck because he's definitely going to be shifting, this planet, in a
Yeah.
different direction towards somewhere where we need to go, a final breaking point. It's
Yeah,
my,
a final breaking point. It's true. And, I do believe I've said for years, I've said that Trump is a 22-4 master soul and he's here to stir it up in the way that it needs to be stirred up. But the problem, as we know, with that is that's not pretty. That's not fun. That isn't easy for any of us, but it needs to be stirred up because we've been living in a divided mentality for a long time. We've been living in a war world for a long time. We've been living in a world where people really believe in violence and hatred. And we know even from remembering other times in other galaxies that I've talked to people who are IP souls and soul regression sessions, and they talk about planets that work through harmony in a whole different, kind of world. That's possible for us. And the only way we get there is by breaking apart this world that we've created. And even as I say that, I think, boy, that sounds horrible. Like, why would I have stayed here for that? And I even think, that all my health problems in the last 6 months have been my body saying, come on, Sue, are you going to stay for this or not? And just feeling the rumbling of this incredible shift coming, which is not going to be easy. We're not going to look back at 2025 collectively and go, that was a great year. We're just
right,
not.
right. Right, but we definitely will grow from it,
Right.
hopefully positively, like you said. And maybe at the lowest common denominator, I feel like not maybe civil war wasn't the term I meant, but maybe our country splits in two because we can't agree to live as one. I mean, I don't know, and I don't know how that works, but I'm just thinking like, what's the most positive outcome in this sort of very, like you said, we are just completely split,
Yeah.
down the middle. So, I don't know. I want to say one more thing, and I have a question. So it was very interesting for me to also be out of the country on election day and see how it affected others.
Mm.
I was in Portugal,
Mhm.
and it really affected people who wanted to talk to me about the election. I mean, there was a heaviness there, and even amongst the people. And I thought, gosh, we have such a ripple effect all over this world, you know.
But more than that, I know that we also have a ripple effect in the galaxy, meaning that I have heard from many advanced souls that the galaxy and all the other life forms and universes care deeply about the survival of this galaxy and this planet, and
Right.
that they're not going to allow the Earth, this Earth world, to destroy itself, that we're needed in the galaxy and that this is a place that souls come to incarnate who are very determined to evolve all of consciousness. In fact, we're heroes because we chose to be here now at this pivotal point of, really painful growth. And so when we look at it in the bigger picture, I know that the light will win because this earth is needed in the galaxy, in the universe, in the greater good of the evolution of humanity. So that's why even people around the world are going, oh no, what's happening in the United States? Because they know we are all connected energetically. And we all know on a deep level that we have to move forward with our evolution for the good of all. And, I was thinking about childbirth because I have a friend right now whose daughter is giving birth. Unless you've had a million kids already, childbirth is extraordinarily painful and extraordinarily damaging sometimes to the body of the mom. I mean, I know for me, when I gave birth to my daughter, oh my gosh. I mean, I wasn't the same for a long time. Um, and so then I look at my daughter and, well, she's the greatest gift of my life. So I really do look at this time period as giving birth to a higher frequency on Earth. And, there is just no epidural that's going to make this an easy process.
No, no. And as far as the light train, I believe you, I agree with you, and I'm on that train with you, Sue. I'm so appreciative of all of our classes and our time together and the light that you bring to this world and to all of us. And, I just plan on paying it forward.
Yeah.
I'm on that light train with you for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, we all have to be because all of our lights are needed.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just ask my question, then Marcia, I'm sure, wants the floor. I'm going into a 5 personal year in 2025, of which I can already feel the energy of. So I'm just curious about what is the 9 universal 5 personal year dynamic or qualities, if any?
Well, courage is the buzzword for you for this year that you're going into. And let me just share, I'm coming out of a 5 year, and it
Okay.
has been a year that has rocked my world for better and worse in every
Okay.
way. I mean, cancer in April and great love from my community, and then this election separating so many of us. It's just been intense change. Now, I think intense change is really good in the long run, but it doesn't mean that a 5 is easy. But the fact that 2025 ends in a 5, I feel like you'll be more in harmony with the changes that are coming. It won't be so hard for you to let go and change and grow and do whatever you need to do because you're going to be already in that place of change and growth.
Okay, that's great.
And take care of your health, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
Because a 5, 5 vibration is also about physicality, physical health, and all of that. So pay good attention to your health.
I will.
So,
I will.
Marcia, did you have a question, sweetheart?
Yes, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase it. Health had been my issue from 2015 until last year, and last year was my 9 year. I felt like I was coming out of the health issues, and this year is the one, and I felt as though I was to focus on spirituality, and I still seem to be having a lot of health issues.
I think
And
there's two things going on. One, Marcia, is you're a very sensitive, evolved soul. So your body, kind of like mine, is still kind of feeling all this frequency shifting going on. And, I had the flu a week ago. Like, I never get the flu. I mean, it's just all of this stuff is affecting us. And the more sensitive we are, the more it's kind of coming into our bodies. And so I feel that part of it for you is that as well. But the other part for you, Marcia, is, and I think we've talked about this before, that there is a certain sense that your soul has agreed that you're taking an accelerated path right now of evolving to the Madonna state through being magnificent in your physical health journey of suffering, rising above it again and again. And I'm not saying that's fun or anything. I'm just saying there is such a Madonna energy in you that gets more and more clear, more and more purified, more magnificent. Now, you'll hopefully reach a point where you'll say, okay, I've ascended as high as I want to be. The health stuff can cool down now. But on the other hand, whatever our soul wants us to experience, the soul has the final word. So I've been even talking to my body going like, okay, what's the final lesson here? Because I would really like to feel like my regular self right now. And I do know that the soul is also notching all of our physical bodies up several notches of frequency, because that's how we have to be to move through this new age of evolution. And one more thing, Marcia, I've also read that people born more back when you and I were born are having a harder frequency shift affect them in their bodies, because we were born at such a lower vibrational frequency time than so many of the people on the planet now. And so our bodies are really doing a big shakeup right now to shift us up harder than for people who are younger.
That makes a lot of sense. And thank you. The other question I had was in reference to my sister. Her husband, as
Yeah.
I had shared, just passed in
Yeah.
August, and I spent a month with her.
Yeah.
And we are very different, but we may not be as different as I had thought. Because, I've figured out everybody's path in my family, and she was a 4, but I had only done it using the linear method.
Right.
Did your soul path calculator? She's a 22-4.
There you go. Yeah. And
And
yeah, so you're both evolved souls, and you're both trying to help each other grow. And family of origin is often our most painful and most powerful soul agreements for growth. And I have a sister who's also a 22-4 like me, and we're completely on different paths and see things differently. And yet, at the end of the day, the things we say to each other really push each other to expand and grow. So I know that she's probably one of my most significant soul agreements.
yeah, I mean, I basically had kind of brushed her aside, and now I realize I can't do that. That
Right.
she and I are here to help each other
Yeah. Yeah.
change and grow.
Yeah. Thank you, sweetie.
I'm
I was,
curious.
go
Oh,
ahead. Well, does Melanie, do you have a question or anything to share? You have to unmute, sweet.
Sorry, I'm doing laundry as we're doing this. No, I just realized that the time changed. I
Mhm.
was ready for 9 o'clock and I realized that the time change made it, an hour earlier. So
Right.
I'm excited that I caught you guys. So I'm very
I'm
happy.
I'm very glad you're here too. Yeah. Yeah, the time change has messed up a lot of my classes this week, because even in the angelic ministry last Monday, half of the class showed up an hour late.
Yeah. It's I don't even know why we have it, but we
I
do.
know. I know.
I thought we were getting rid of it, but
I
we think
know.
things are going to happen and they don't. I can't say that since I'm talking now, I've been super tired.
Yeah.
Really, really tired, but I've been doing a lot of work spiritually.
Yeah.
And what you just said to the lady prior to me
Yeah.
really resonated, that we're raising our frequency
Yeah.
and we're in touch, with all of the spiritual emotions around us and the emotions in general around us. And that gave me some peace of why I've been so tired and not able to do laundry until now,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Right.
I know, Melanie, if you weren't tired, I'd be worried about you because the truth is there's so much energy coming at us right now, you know? I mean, there's energy of rage that we're feeling from people who disagree with us, you know, and there's energy of fear that we're feeling. There's energy of disappointment and grief from people who might see things a different way. This world right now is so dialed up that if it's not affecting you physically, then I'm really surprised.
Okay, well, it definitely is. And it's interesting because 3 days ago, I felt great just on this beautiful cloud. I don't know how to explain it, but in the past few days, I've just not been able to sleep.
Yeah.
And then I'm really tired, and it's pretty awful. I'm having very interesting dreams where they feel very real,
Yeah.
because if I'm actually in
You're
them,
traveling out of your body.
because I want to leave.
Yes. Well, you know, it's interesting what you say because I've heard from people who told me that when the election happened, you know, they weren't upset. Like they kind of, I mean, I personally had been having so many intuitions that things were going to go this way, even though the logic brain didn't want to believe it. That when it actually happened, I felt kind of numb for a day. You know, it's like, okay, I kind of knew this was coming on a deep level. Um, but then after that wore off, then I had all my grief and my pain to deal with. And I've talked to a lot of other people that, you know, on the day of the election, they were like, okay, you know, kind of knew this. And now everybody's having to deal with that pain. The unfortunate thing about being human is we are not evolved enough yet that we can instantly lift up from grief or instantly lift up from, you know, disappointment or fear or rage. We have to do our spiritual work, ask the angels to help us. We have to lift it up with work, I would say, with a little effort and attention. But even if you felt numb, you know, I'm more worried about the people who are still feeling numb because at some point, you have to feel that to heal it, to release it.
I've kind of accepted it.
Good.
It is. And if we all accept it,
Yeah.
then, and I truly am very connected to Mother Gaia. I feel like she's the one that's really present. I don't know. You know what I mean? I look at it that way, and we just have to support each other and not be not be mad. It is what it is. It's here now.
Right. And
Sometimes we
also
fight it.
that favorite line I've been saying is, I surrender my resistance to what is unfolding in front of me. I surrender my resistance to what is unfolding in front of me. We've talked a lot in my classes about resistance and how resistance makes pain harder, even when we're physically ill. If we're resisting the pain of our physical illness or whatever it is we're experiencing, it makes it harder. But the minute we say, okay, I'll walk through this, and think of it as a gift to the higher beings that I'm going to open my heart and love anyway. I'm going to do that for the God source. I'm going to do that for my beloved departeds. I'm going to do that because I know that Chrissy, Paul, Dad, Marv, my beloveds on the other side, all have me, and they know this is hard for us, and they're helping us, and there's a bigger picture that we can't see. So for them, I will I will release my resistance, and I will try to walk through this with an open heart. Even if I can't do that for myself, I can do that for them.
I love that.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you,
I
Sue.
just think that in addition to Melanie said supporting each other, I think one of the biggest concerns is, you know, because Donald Trump normalizes treating people badly, anybody, you know, and then that filters down into society. So
Well,
it's
that's a human way to look at it, Lydia. We have to look at it as that what's he's demonstrating for us on a soul level is the people who think it's okay to be that way to other people, they're going to watch this unfold until they finally go, oh my God, no. that's not right. And the minute they hit that place, the lesson has been learned and we all ascend.
Right. But we just have to kind of hold that space for those people,
Don't worry, January. January is not far away.
My question was, for those people who are a 9 life path, in a 9 universal year, is there a certain, are there certain, right, characteristics, qualities that come up
You
with
know,
that?
what I've learned is that if the 9 life path soul is living their life in alignment with their path, trying to do humanitarian work, trying to step up to that compassion, trying to live from the higher consciousness, and has a sense of detachment. I mean, a highly evolved 9 soul looks at the world and kind of is no longer disappointed. They just go, well, the humans will do what humans will do. They have a level of kind of spiritual detachment from it. So they sometimes have an easier time, moving through the chaos of something like a 9 universal year because they're used to saying, okay, this is what humans do. How can I help? And for me, the thing that hurts my heart is, as we've talked about, I came in with this angelic belief that people on earth, and I still believe it, are basically good, loving, evolved souls. And so I let them disappoint me. And yet the flip side of that is realizing, no, everybody's walking through here getting so beat up and banged and bruised that even if they are, and they are all beautiful, good souls at heart, their pain is causing them to act in ways that I think are poor or badly. And so I'm not going to hate on them because they're in pain. And when I do make peace about this election, the way I find it is by saying, oh my God, the level of pain in humanity for this to have happened right now, that finally kicks me into my compassion of there's nobody here having fun right now, even if they're acting like they're gloating or something, they're still in pain and they're still in fear. And so that finally brings me back to my compassion and my understanding that we're all here doing the best we can as souls on a journey. And the more we can move through the pain and see it from the higher wisdom, the more we're serving the true purpose that we came here for.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
All right.
I love that.
Anybody else have anything, or we can just go take it easy because I know we're all hurting and tired and all of that good stuff. And I just want you guys to know that it's such a pleasure to see you and connect with you tonight and just to talk about it from numerology, which always brings us the higher view and trusting that there's a greater plan here because I've worked with these numbers since 1980, and even times when I've walked away from them and said I just can't believe there's that much truth in these numbers, and then the numbers pull me back because something happens, and I go, oh wow, it's a 9 year, no wonder. Well, after all those 40 something years of trusting this as a beautiful sign of how our universe evolves, I have to constantly now return to the understanding that there's going to be a letting go happening, but it's going to be good. It's going to somehow take us to a better place. Even when I go back and look at my own last 9 personal year and all the things that have happened since then, I go, oh God, yes, I like my life so much better now and where it is and who I am. So I have to go back to that memory and say, of course, trust the numbers. Collectively, in 5 years, we're going to be going, yes, things are better for all of us now. And so I hold on to that vision. I
Absolutely.
hand it off to all of you, and we have to hand it off to all the people we love. And thank you so much for coming on here tonight. And many, many blessings to all of you.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thank you.
Thank you,
And
sweeties.